Thank you, my friends. It's always a pleasure to be in Copenhagen. It's a pleasure to return for me to this wonderful city, the home of my good friend and fellow freedom fighter. I have to call him my hero because he is Lars Hedegaard. It's always a pleasure to be at the capital of the Danish people, and it's an honor to be a guest of your great organization. The Danish Free Press Society is a beacon of light. Don't underestimate what you have in Denmark. It's a beacon of light for Denmark, for Scandinavia, for the whole of Europe, for the entire West. Your staunch defense of civil liberties, such as freedom of speech, serves as an inspiration for many, including myself and my party. And on a moment like this, where the free world, indeed, I'm not so positive, I'm not so optimistic, where the free world is in mortal danger as we speak, an organization such as the Danish Free Press Society is more needed than ever. So thank you, my friends, for being here. Exactly 10 years ago today, my fellow countryman Theo van Gogh fell as a martyr of free speech. And I remember that morning very well. I was sitting in my office in the Dutch Parliament, and my security detail that I just got a few weeks before started getting nervous. Journalists came asking me if I knew what happened and if I really would give a reaction, but nobody could. Nobody really believed and sensed what happened at that moment, 9:45 in the Netherlands on November 2nd, 2004. But we all realized that the Netherlands would never be the same again. Unfortunately, very few lessons have been learned since that horrible day in 2004. Islam, as you know, claims that Muhammad was a prophet. But Muhammad was not a prophet. Theo van Gogh was a prophet. Van Gogh saw what was coming. He spoke out forcefully against the danger of Islamization. And as you all remember, he also just made a short movie together with my then colleague Ayaan Hirsi Ali about the plight of women in Islamic society. A movie called Submission. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that is why he was murdered. And his assassination should have been an alarm bell. But it was not. Van Gogh warned us in a strong language. He used very strong language, as clear as the colors that his great-grand-uncle Vincent used when painting his landscapes. Theo van Gogh was a brave man. When he realized the dangers of Islam, he did not run away like a coward. And he would have hated to see how our freedom of speech has been restricted in the 10 years since his death. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, the more Islam we get, the less free our societies become. And that's not only because of the Islamization process, but also because of the weak appeasers who call themselves politicians in Denmark, in Holland, all over the Western world. We are no longer allowed to crack jokes or to draw cartoons if Islam feels insulted by it. If you do so anyway, your life is in danger, as Geert Wilders and Lars Vilks can testify. You might even get arrested, as happened a few years ago with the Dutch cartoonist Gregorius Nekschot. Sure, the charges against Nekschot were later dropped, but If you value your life, if you prefer to avoid trouble, the message is better not to do anything that might remotely insult Islam. We are no longer allowed to tell statistical truths, as Lars Hedegaard experienced when he referred to rape figures in Islamic families. A murderer came to Lars' door and the state authorities prosecuted him for so-called hate speech. Sure, the Supreme Court eventually acquitted Lars. But then again, the message is that if you value your life, if you prefer to avoid trouble, it is better to keep quiet and not to offend Islam. We are no longer allowed to refer to scientific and historical research, as my friend, the brave Austrian human rights activist Elisabeth Sabadic-Wolff experienced. In a seminar on the historical figure of Muhammad, she mentioned that Muhammad had a crush on little girls and had sex as a pedophile with a 9-year-old called Aisha, which is, as we all know, the truth. But Elizabeth was convicted, and her conviction was even upheld by the Austrian appeals court. Once again, the message is that it's better to remain silent and not tell the truth if you want to avoid trouble. But Theo van Gogh did not remain silent. And neither did Kurt and Lars and Elizabeth and Robert and my party and so many other freedom fighters in the West. We speak out. We will never be silent because we love our country, because we love our freedom, because we refuse to live in slavery, because we believe that without liberty, life is worth nothing. Liberty and human dignity, that is what we all stand for. So we are, as a matter of fact, the torch bearers for freedom. We are the torch bearers for democracy. We are the torch bearers for a civilization that indeed is far superior than other civilizations on earth, like the Islamic civilization. Last summer, in my hometown, The Hague, I witnessed scenes which brought back memories of the darkest period of our history, the Nazi era. Sympathizers of the Islamic State paraded in our streets, in the streets of The Hague. They carried swastikas. They carried the black flag of the Islamic State. They shouted, "Death to the Jews." And instead of rounding up these hate mongers, the authorities did totally nothing. But when we warn against Islam, the authorities call it hate speech. They bring us to court. But when the grim forces of hatred march down to our own streets, the police look on and do not interfere. It's a disgrace, it's a scandal, and it's intolerable. Islam, ladies and gentlemen, Islam is waging a war against the West. Indeed, we are at war. Only fools can deny it. For Islam has declared war on us. And America and its allies are currently bombing the Islamic State in Syria and Iraq. And that's excellent. My party supports this offensive. And I'm glad that Dutch and Danish F-16s participate in it, and that our two nations stand shoulder to shoulder in this endeavor. We should liquidate Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi and all the other criminals who are leading the Islamic State. The sooner, the better. But we have to do more than that. Far more important than fighting the Islamic State abroad is the fight to preserve our own security in our own countries. In the Netherlands, in Denmark, in all the other European and Western countries, it's our homes that we should protect. It is just, once again, it is just to bomb the Islamic State in the Middle East. But our first priority should be to protect our own nations, our own freedoms, our own people, our own children here at home. Recently, the Dutch authorities prevented more than 40 jihadis to leave our country when they attempted to go to Syria to fight in the ranks of the Islamic State. Their passports were seized and they were sent home. They were sent home instead of being jailed. So these criminals now walk the streets of the Netherlands and make them unsafe. You may have heard that the jihadis who recently murdered soldiers in Canada were also people whom the authorities had previously prevented to leave Canada for Syria and who were not arrested. Can you believe it? Who were not arrested and went free on the streets of Canada. And blocking the exodus of those who want to wage jihad elsewhere and not detain them is sheer stupidity. Keeping them in our own countries as free people means that they will hit us here. So we must hasten their exit instead of preventing it. But let them never return. This is the thing we should do. Not stop them from leaving, promote them leaving our country, reinstate border controls, and let them never go back. I rather want them to behead people. I rather want them to behead people in Syria than in Denmark or Holland. It's as clear as that. Nothing is more important than first protect our own countries from the jihadis. Let us restore our liberties, such as freedom of speech. I am very much in favor of a First Amendment in all the Western societies. And I'm jealous on the US that has a First Amendment. Let us defend our culture. You're not a racist if you're saying that we are better, that our culture is better than the Islamic culture. Be proud. Don't be afraid. Whatever they call you, just say it. We are proud. Our culture is better than the Islamic culture. Let us be brave. Maybe this is my most important message for today. Be brave. Do your duty. Let me ask you, do our authorities do their duty? Unfortunately, they do not. They fail to do their duty. They fail to act accordingly. They even lie to us. Every day, we hear Western leaders repeat the sickening mantra that Islam is a religion of peace. And whenever an atrocity is committed in the name of Islam, whenever somebody is beheaded in Syria or Iraq, Barack Obama, David Cameron, my own Dutch Prime Minister, Mr. Rutte, and many other of their colleagues rush to the television cameras to tell the world that it has nothing to do with Islam. How stupid do they think we are? Are we stupid? We are not stupid. Look at the Quran. See that Quran and Islam means violence. Look at the Quran, Surah 47, verse 4, which says that whenever you meet the unbelievers, smite their necks until you caused a bloodbath among them. How more Islamic do you want it, Barack Obama? Fortunately, And I'm not positive about Islam, as you might have found out already. I'm not a believer in a moderate Islam. I don't believe in it. It will never be there. There never will be a moderate Islam. Look what is happening in the Middle East. Look what is happening in our countries. It's getting worse instead of better. You cannot change Islam. But there are, of course, moderate people. And I believe in moderate people. Fortunately, the eyes of ever more people are opening to the reality that the political elite is lying and not doing enough. In my own country, in a poll from last June, just a few months ago, it showed that 65% of the Dutchmen are convinced that the Islamic culture does not belong to the Netherlands. And in France, 74% find Islam incompatible with French society. And in Britain, fewer than 1 in 4 think that following Islam is compatible with the British way of life. And in Germany, over 2/3 of the population think negatively about Islam. Even in the Czech Republic, a country where you can hardly find any Muslim, almost 2/3 consider Islam a threat to society, and 90% are afraid of it. And here, in your own country, Denmark, 92% of your citizens believe that Muslim immigrants should adopt the Danish cultures. And with every new terroristic crime, with every new attack, with every new beheading, it becomes clear to ever more people in our societies what the true nature of Islam really is. With every Islamic assault on our values, more and more people realize that Islam wants to conquer the world, that they are prepared to kill or enslave anyone who refuses to submit. Islam means submission, and that is ready, people are ready to commit the biggest atrocities to achieve this goal. My friends, we are gathered here today because we, as I see it, are neither prepared to collaborate with evil nor to appease it. We say no. We say no to Islamic censorship. And we say no to politicians that fail us. And indeed, since during the last 10 years, I've been living under constant police protection. But I'm not the only one who has to live through this ordeal. Several people here present in this room are in the same situation. Our friends Lars and Kurt even came to stand eye to eye with fanatics who tried to slaughter them with an axe or with a gun or whatever they can find. And of course, as I said before, and I cannot repeat it enough, I believe in moderate people. I believe in moderate Muslims. But I do not believe in a moderate Islam. There is only one Islam, and that is the Islam of the Quran, the Hadith, and the life of Muhammad, who is an example for so many Muslims, and who was a terrorist and a warlord. Nothing can change that. But even though there are many moderate Muslims, it is wrong to think that the moderates are in a majority. I wish it was true, but they are not. A poll in the Netherlands gave shocking results. It is hard to believe, but almost 3/4, 73% to be exact, of the Muslims in my country said that Dutch Muslims who go and fight in Syria are heroes. Can you believe it? Heroes. So yes, it's a minority of the Muslims who want to use arms and be violent themselves. But 3/4 of them, at least in the Netherlands, support jihad, even believe that the ones who are going to Syria are heroes. So we have an enormous problem in our societies, and we should not be politically correct, but tell the truth. Over 2/3 of the Islamic population in the Netherlands consider religious rules of Islam to be more important than our own secular democratic rules. And equally terrifying was an article yesterday in the Dutch press stating that Mohammed Bouyeri, the murderer of Theo van Gogh, is still considered a hero today by hundreds of Dutch Muslims. A few years ago, I called on Muslims to liberate themselves from the yoke of Islam, to choose for freedom. I wholeheartedly supported Muslims who love freedom. So I told them, free yourselves, leave Islam. And I still stand by this appeal. But it should not, and it does not blind me to the present reality. And you may have heard, I believe Lars already mentioned it, that I will probably be brought to court again in the Netherlands. 3 years ago, I was taken to court on hate crime charges. The court case lasted almost 2 years. Fortunately, I was acquitted on all charges. But now, today, 2014, the Dutch judiciary is going after me again because I asked Dutch voters whether they wanted more or fewer Moroccans in the Netherlands. And you have to understand that Moroccans are the largest Islamic population in my country. In the Netherlands, the Moroccan problem is the problem of Islam, as a matter of fact. And I refer to Moroccans not because I have anything against Moroccans, but because they are overrepresented in the Dutch crime and welfare statistics. They also account for almost 80%, more than 3/4 of all Dutch Muslims who leave for Syria today to wage jihad. No one in the Netherlands wants more Moroccans. And as I said, our leaders still refuse to defend our freedoms because they are cowards and appeasers. And this is why the task of defending freedom has now fallen on us, on you, on me, on ordinary citizens. And to this end, we have established the International Freedom Alliance, IFA. We want IFA to be a shield for all of those who refuse to submit to Islamic tyranny. And our mission of this new international organization, IFA, is to stop the Islamization of non-Islamic countries, like Denmark, like Holland, but also Canada and Australia, and fight for the preservation of our freedoms, our liberties, and our democracy. And we want to stand firm. We want to preserve our freedom, our values, our civilization for our children and our grandchildren. Because we know that there is nothing more precious than liberty and freedom. But we also know that to defend it comes, unfortunately, but it comes with a price. And the price can be very high. But sometimes a man, sometimes a people must give all they can. There is no alternative. There is no other option. We have to be brave and we have to stand up. And our political leaders may fail us. But my friends, we will not fail. There is a path we shall never choose. And that is the path of submission. My friends, I also have some good news from the Netherlands. Today, I'm glad to say that the popularity of my party, the Party for Freedom, is at a high. An opinion poll just published this morning shows that we have by far become the largest party, the number one party in the Netherlands, with almost... Thank you. Thank you. With almost 20% of the vote. 1 out of 5 Dutchmen would vote for my party if there would be elections today. Unfortunately, there are no elections today, but they would vote for us today. And the policies that we stand for are also more popular, getting more popular than ever. And there I fully agree with Daniel Pipes. The positive thing is not the politicians, but the positive thing is that the people of our societies are waking up. Are waking up. We have to stand up. And what is the policy that my party advocates? We want to stop, a full stop, for all immigration from Islamic countries. Whatever we do, if we don't close the borders, if we don't getting more people from Islamic countries in, everything will fail. Trust me, immigration is number one. Second, we want to stimulate the voluntary re-immigration from people to Islamic countries. Third, we want to expel all criminals, even if they have dual citizenship, deprive people of the Dutch nationality and send them away. And fourth, we want to de-Islamize our nation. No more mosques, no more Islamic schools. Enough is enough. Dear friends, there is a lot of work to do. We, the defenders of freedom and security, have, as I believe, an historic duty. Our generation has been entrusted with a huge task to oppose Islam and to keep the flame of liberty burning. And I say it without exaggeration. The future of human civilization, the future of freedom depends on us, depends on you. Now is the time when everyone in the West must do its duty. If we do our duty, we are writing history here today. So let us do our duty. Let us stand up with a happy heart, but with a strong spirit. Let us go forth, be courageous, save our freedom. Thank you so much.